seeing you, you know, in the 80s, like, I mean, you can keep this in the podcast because it's really like you're one of the pioneers of where stand-up comedy has gone.
I led Lewis and Clark across the Northwest Passage.
You really did. I mean, like seeing like, you know, it's like I can still pinpoint, you know, the moment that I wanted to be a comic at 6 years old watching. I was with my dad. My dad was really into stand-up, and I'm 6 years old and Comic Relief is on. Which, I mean,
oh my God, you're so young.
I know I'm a baby. I'm a baby. I'm a baby with gray hair and indigestion. That's
anyone can have indigestion, and I see black hair, so you're a baby.
Oh, it is colored, girl. It is. My beard is full gray. I look like a wizard drug dealer.
Is it worry?
It's the Jewish in me. Yeah, that's what it is. I went gray prematurely. I think I was like 22 when I went gray.
Oh my goodness.
Not fully.
You're of the curve as well.
Yes. But yeah, it's just like knowing and being able to sit down with you and talk to you about this record. It was just, it's such a thrill because, you know, comedy and music goes hand in hand. And I really think like I've seen Billy Joel at like Madison Square Garden, and the dude has jokes. Like, it's incredible the set that this dude has in between songs. And then you go see him another night and you're like, oh, this is his shtick. This is what he does.
But finish your old story about you were with your dad. You were years old.
So I'm 6 years old and my dad's watching Comic Relief. And I remember how much of a big deal Comic Relief was, because I remember I actually asked a comedian recently. I said, like, because I'm putting on a benefit for my friend Angelo, who's the reason we're doing this podcast. My buddy Angelo passed away 10 years ago. He made fun of me not knowing music. It's okay because a lot of good came from it. And that being said, I remember I was like, did the comics get paid for Comic Relief? He goes, no, it was like, it just launched your career. Like, it was so big. And so I could tell how big it was, even at 6 years old, seeing someone like George Carlin go up and do my stuff is stuff, your stuff is shit. And I was like, seeing my dad laugh, I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. And then being able to see you and your contemporaries at the time. No.
Down the wrong pipe and a little crack. Sorry.
I can tell you're smoking crack too. All right, right on.
Well, you know, I just mix it in there. But, you know, it didn't, well, if it was going to launch your career, you weren't on it because they went for big names. So,
yeah.
And as in all comedy favors, everyone gets paid but the comedians. Everyone
Always.
got paid for Comic Relief. Guys had offices getting $1 million a year to put us together for free. The cameraman got paid, the director got paid, the producer got paid, everybody got paid but the comics. And that's what it always is. I always laugh. The world gets paid, but we never do. And yet, if we didn't come, there wouldn't be a thing.
There's nothing. There is nothing.
You know, it took years to get on Comic Relief. They just said no. And I was selling out everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the same. It was the same sexism then. Even on that, wasn't on for the first few years. You know, I'm on my hands and knees begging again. And that was there's my career in a nutshell. You know, can I come in here? No. And that's it. You know, okay, thanks.
I'll do 3 shows on Friday. 3 shows Friday night. No,
all different. So you can sell another beer.
Yeah. But this is, I think that is actually a good starting off point, because from what I've read about Janis, which she had to deal with in the industry, everything. So before we even get started, do you have anything you want to promote? Just please take this time just to, like, you know, you go ahead. Anything you have going on you want to talk about?
Well, it's the 20th anniversary of my animal rescue organization, Tales of Joy, which is at talesofjoy.net. 20 years of saving lives across the whole country. We work mostly online, and we're the fundraisers for the tiny, teeny, weeny little rescues across the country that do all the hands-on work, but don't have the infrastructure to raise a lot of money to keep going. So we're there for emergencies. You know, they run out of food. We send 6 months worth of food. For COVID, we send food to individuals across the country, thousands of pounds of food, cats, dogs, bunnies, everything. Just people finding us online saying, if you need help, contact us. We're still sending food out because people still need help. But if your washer breaks and you have to, people don't realize how much laundry is involved in rescue.
I know.
But if you have a kennel, you're doing 1,000 pounds a day and they're out of food, we send it. A dog gets run over, we send the money, as much as we have, we send out. And we do rescues across the country. And now we're helping dogs in Lebanon that come here with the Lebanon to Canada, believe it or not, and a bunch of other countries. So, we just keep saving lives. We rescue the rescuers. If you're going to fall through the cracks, just email us and try and keep you going until you get
That's
back.
Cool. I like how your dog showed up in the background just as you were promoting this. It's like right on cue.
Where can everybody go if they want to help with the organization?
Well, tailsofjoy.net, TAILS of joy.net. And the good thing is, even after 20 years, we're still 100% volunteer. There's no salaries, no perks, no expenses. I underwrite. So every penny, every dollar that you give us or spend goes 100% to rescue. And we have great stuff in the holiday shop right now. You can buy amazing stuff and 100% to rescue. So, the big juggernauts, the fundraising juggernauts in America, they spend $1 million salaries and travel and, and then they send you crap from China for a year if you give them $5. That I don't know where their money goes, but every dollar that comes into us goes to save a life. So
that's great. But also I want to amend something you just said. Not everything's crap from China, because I found an NBA, actually professional sports jersey website that makes bootleg jerseys for like $30. I've spent hundreds in the last week. I just bought Ray-Bans, Yeezys.
Did you donate money to a rescue for that?
No, this is just, you were just saying crap from China. I donate all the time. I'm just
Society of the United States. Give them $5, I'll send you 5,000 crappy keychains.
Yeah.
Saving animals. That's what I'm saying. Oh no, not everything's crap from China, of course. Stuff we sell isn't crap from China either. I'm just saying, give us money. We don't have lists. We don't sell your name. We don't keep your name. I mean, I'm the worst. I should. But we don't. And, our stuff is great. And you can send it back if you don't like it. We'll give you everything back.
It is. You heard it. You heard it here, everybody.
Never had a cent back.
If you get crap, send it back.
There's no crap. There's no crap at Tales.
There's no. I love that. And as a dog owner, because I know we have to get to Janis Joplin, but I mean, if you have any recommendations of like, this is my first winter with my dog here in New York.
Oh wow,
LA.
It's a lot of work to have a dog in New York.
Here's what's good. And here's what's good at one dog owner to another is that when I got Lekka, I got her when she was 10 weeks, I immediately hired a dog trainer. I wanted to impress people because basically your dog and your dog's temperament is an extension of you.
Yeah.
So if your dog's crazy and unmanageable, you're crazy and unmanageable.
Yeah.
So I was like,
dogs?
right? Yeah. If you meet like a dog that's like blah, you're like, all right, that's
my dog.
Yeah. Oh, that's your dog. My dog is a Buddhist. Where is she? Well, do we see her? Do you guys see her in the cut back there?
Nice.
Just chilling with that ball in her
wow,
mouth.
you had
Happy
a good
dog.
trainer.
Yeah. Oh no, she's incredible. But we need to get like dog booties. We need to get a dog sweater for her. Like, I'm actually quite excited about it because it's like Lekka's never been fashion forward, and now we get to go through that.
Yeah, New York's cold. Well, good for you. It's fun to have a dog in the winter there. You'll know all the dogs' names in your neighborhood and none of the people's names.
I already like that. It's already.
Yeah.
Lekka is the most popular dog on East 22nd and First Street. So I just gave everybody my location. If you want to come find me, there I am. Come after. Try something, Fleece Army. Try something. All right, let's get to this record. I love that you're doing this. I love.
And I love that this is the one I get to do as well.
So
because she was everything to me when I was growing up, Janis Joplin. Everything to me. I'm serious. I was raised by the Taliban in Brooklyn. And the fact that I'm not kidding, every negative you think of with the Taliban was what I went through. And that's all I'm going to say about it. To see her be alive and everything she embodied for someone like me who was hoping I'd live long enough to get the hell out of there. She was a total hope for me. She was everything. She literally raised me. She showed me everything I could be and do and think, and that it was right and I wasn't crazy. So I was so in love with her. So in love with her.
How old were you when you first heard Janis Joplin?
You know, well, let's see. Big Brother and the Holding Company. I guess Cheap Thrills came out in what, 68?
Jer, what do you got? You got the details? Because I've got yeah, 1968, released
Yep.
August 1968. Gotta be
So-
faster, Jer. Adam's fast.
So yeah, so then I was 16 then. So everyone's doing the math now. I'm 140 now.
Wow, you look fantastic for 140.
Thank you. It's
You must have Isabella Rossellini disease, where it's just like you'll never age because you look phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I'm getting up there, but I guess I was 16, and that was just about the right time to think I'm either going to go under here and die, or I'm going to get out of here and live. And I literally, because my birthday's in the summer, and because no one in high school, I mean, they knew I was never going to pass anything. They had in those days 2 diplomas in Brooklyn, a general or an academic in high school. Academic meant you went to high school. A general diploma meant we've seen you twice, we need the chair, get out. So they gave me a general diploma, and my birthday's in the summer. So I was out of high school at 16 years old.
Wow.
I know. And I had nowhere to go, and I wasn't educated. And I thought, well, I'll go be a waitress in New York. And my father said, I'm going to get you into a college somewhere. And then when you're 18, you could drop dead. So there he was making plans for my future.
So supportive.
He's like,
okay, great, thanks. Now I know. Anyway, they were just building the University of South Florida, so they would take anyone. You didn't need credits or anything. Money. We put me out there for a while, which was fun. You know, I just dropped acid 100 times and listened to music and turned 18 and went to New York. But I went to see Janis Joplin when I was 17 there at, I think it was the Hillsborough community or huge, concert venue. And we had seats, my boyfriend at the time, we had seats like next to the last row, way up in the, in the dark.
Yeah.
And, BB King was opening for her.
Wow.
Yeah, I was sitting there like loving BB King, waiting for Janis. And I looked to my left and she's standing. We had the end seats. It was me, my boyfriend, Janis. Janis was standing up next to him, just quietly dancing a little bit to BB King. And even at 17 years old, I knew not to bother people. I mean, I didn't know anything about anything, but I just knew she was going on and I didn't want to bother her. But my boyfriend said, "Can I have your autograph?" And she said, "Sure." And he took out a matchbook and she signed the cover and she made 2 hearts with the J's. It was the most beautiful autograph I've still ever seen. Janis Joplin, 2 hearts, and gave it to him. And that's how you know you're not going to marry someone, when he doesn't give you the Janis Joplin autograph.
Oh, what a dick.
A smart guy. So that was my first time, no, it was my second time seeing her, sorry. But the first time, I mean, she was right there. And I knew I could have asked her after him, can I have your art? But I just wouldn't bother her. So, who knew that I knew that much about show business then? The first time I saw her, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what is she wearing? Like, it's like, because my dad, I've told this story a million times. My dad met Miles Davis, and it was like, he said, he asked him if he's Miles Davis. He said no, but I mean, he knew it was Miles. He had the big glasses, a boa on. They're in an elevator at the Four Seasons. So, I mean, was she dressed like the legend that is Janis Joplin?
Yeah, because she was about to go on stage as soon as BB King was playing. So she was ready. She was just warming up. And boa was the thing at the time. She always had a boa pinned to her hair. Not really on stage, but when she was on Dick Cavett a lot, I used to see her, and she had that great boa pinned to her hair. And she always wore big sleeves that, moved when she moved, and usually a fringed vest, fringe suede vest and then bell bottoms and those little gorgeous slip-in pointy shoes that, you know, it was so delicate and beautiful. And then this soul emerged. And, you know, when you think of the blues, I think she might be the only person who screamed the blues, which seems so contradictory. But when you think about the blues, why isn't everybody screaming the blues? If you really have the blues and you've been so done over so badly so many times, you should be screaming your brains out with the blues. He was the one who did, you know. The first time I saw her, I think I was probably 14 or 15 in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Yeah, I had one nice outfit, and it was this very kind of tight little velvet skirt and this very satiny blouse. And I was so excited to see her. I think we had second row right off center. Another, you know, guy in the neighborhood, nice guy, took me. And so I ironed my little clothes and put on my tight little clothes and pulled my hair back tight and put on all this makeup. I was literally felt like I was honoring her. You know, I wanted to be as
I get it.
ready for her as I felt like I was honoring her to look as good as and then a couple of weeks later, and this is the most valuable lesson I ever got for being on stage in the future. A couple of weeks later, I read this interview with her and she said, man, I'm so sick of these girls showing up to my show and their tight little outfits with their hair all pinned down and they're sitting there like little ladies judging me. And I went, no, we love you. We wear that to honor you, to show up ready to see you. And what it made me understand as someone who later went on stage for decades is, you don't know what's going on out there. Don't judge anybody. You have no idea what they're thinking, you know, whether they love you or just do your stuff, you know. I wished I could have said to her, no, we come like that because we love you. And she read it, you know, she read it wrong. So
was every girl at that time that was like, because like I'm kind of like imagining Janis Joplin had not as globally the effect that Madonna did, but it was like Madonna comes out, every girl is wearing the Desperately Seeking Susan outfit. You know what I mean? Like
because television is the universal, you know. I mean, that's the thing. You know what? My husband obviously has been in rock and roll a long time, so I hosted the Constitution Hall Gala for Clinton's first inauguration. And it was a 4-hour show, and it was just awesome at Constitution Hall. And, you know, Crosby and Nash and Melissa Etheridge, and I mean, just great people, right?
Yeah.
So, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, I mean, how many platinum albums and how many decades? We're walking through the crowds to the inauguration. And I had been on, you know, every talk show 1,000 times by then. And Graham Nash is behind me and everyone is screaming, Elayne, not a word to Graham. And Bill said to me, my husband said, I now understand the power of television. This guy is the legend of life, and they're yelling your name because television. And, you know, Janis, if we had had MTV then, you know, Janis would have, of course, but it was a different time. You didn't have global access to people like that.
So then what was it that made you go see her at 14? I mean, obviously, you know, the music is, you know, is of course, like it's on the radio. I mean, how popular? Because I don't know. Like Janis, to me, all I know about Janis Joplin, other than this record and some of the hits, is just that she's this legend that has this powerful voice, and she died in this tragic way too early. But what she did during that time, and her being such an individual, is made her this legend where there's murals of her and people go to her grave, and she's as like the Jim Morrison effect almost. So
well, you know, she was the only poster I had up in my bedroom. I literally had that poster of her with that microphone and that look, and you know, that she just was it. And like I said, it was a very buttoned down period. For even women who were rebelling still were very careful about their eyeliner and, you know, their lashes. Nobody came out and went, roar, roar. And they still don't, for the most part.
No.
There's never been another her with that amount of soul and commitment to music. Nobody. I mean, there's great female singers and writers and great, but nobody comes out and just goes, this is it. This is what you get.
Yeah.
This is as free as I'm going to be. and you have to take this. I mean, that piece of my heart, piece of my heart at the end, when she, come on, take another little bit of my heart. Now. Okay, when she stops and that scream's going to come at the end,
Yeah.
that's it. That's the scream. That's what we all heard at that age, at 14 years old. That was it. And just went, fuck the Taliban, I'm out of here. I got out of Brooklyn and went. And
so basically what you're saying is, because you're growing up in this very strict household where it's just, yeah. And then you see this person that is just, I mean, free. And just, she doesn't care. Like, it's not about the looks. It's just about her talent. And it's just about her just enjoying that moment of making this music. I mean, I could only imagine what that was probably like, especially what's out at the time. Like what is out at the time? What is
I mean, it was Woodstock, and there were great, smart female singer-songwriters there. I loved Judy Collins at the time, even the Fifth Dimension. All the Motown women were, and Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, she screamed a bit, but it was still well produced.
Yeah.
And Janis was just free. And, I'm sure she cared about how she looked. I mean, she wanted to be an attractive girl too, and she was. But the point was, once you get your lipstick on and you do the best, I mean, I wish this was higher, but, once you get where you're, this is the best I can do, now I'm going to be me. And that's what she was. I'm sure she wanted to be considered pretty. And I thought she was gorgeous because of the raw sensuality that came out of her. So, yeah, but it didn't hold her back. Even with singers, they go, make the sound pretty, make it sound pretty. And she just went, I'm going to make it sound alive,
Wow. Yeah.
Of my life.
What?
And watching her, oh my God.
When you hear her voice, what does that do to you? How do you feel when you heard that scream? I mean, was it just like anything's possible? Oh my God, what am I doing here? It's like you have those life-changing moments with certain records, certain songs, movies. They can just go, oh, it's like I have to, whatever that guy just did, I have to do in my life. Was it just totally liberating?
Yes. I mean, that's perfect. A perfect description of all of it. That's what it was. You would, like I said, I was listening. I guess Jefferson Airplane was around then too. And Grace had a lot to say and a lot of strength. But like I said, everything kind of sounded, like it was supposed to, just the way it was supposed to sound. And, I guess Joni Mitchell, I got into her a little later. And I mean, she's like the well-behaved Janis in the sense of, she says she's the best writer ever. She's just amazing. But Janis was just raw. She was completely raw and still, this gorgeous woman who just went, yes, I'm a woman. And we also sound and look and do this. And no one else was brave enough to say, I'm going to, open up these lungs and let you know the agony in here that we are put through in this society. And I'm telling you that, take it, that was, wow. I mean, it's like someone reached down your throat and just grabbed everything and pulled it up, and you had to just go follow yourself into the world. I never heard anything like that.
And I think it's, this is, rock and roll has always been a very male dominated, like art. For sure, we've got a leg up. Yes, that's true. You're not wrong. But there's something, especially in 1968, when it's like we're coming out of the 50s, the 60s. It's like we haven't, I don't know, Vietnam or whatever started, but it's like
all right, any breakfast.
No, it's normal, dude. We have at least dog barks, and we've had more dog barks than I think episodes we've done.
No, stop. Then I can.
But in your view, though, was she a pioneer for women entering like a traditionally male dominated space?
Well, sure, of course she was. She absolutely was. And I don't even know if she looked at it that way. She just, sang her truth, and that was it. But we had Woodstock. How many women can you name that performed at Woodstock? I'm trying to think. I don't even. Was any? Were there? Do you know?
Jared, look it up. Find out some of the female performers that were at Woodstock. I mean, I'm assuming Jefferson Airplane. Fuck, I don't know why I want to say Martha and the Vandellas. I don't know why. That's like
they were at the Vandellas were at Woodstock though.
Really?
A rock and roll than a soul.
No, there was soul. There was soul at Woodstock. There was a little bit of soul.
With soul and rock and roll, I guess.
Women of Woodstock. Who do we have? Yeah, I mean, well, you have like
Sly, Family Stone. I don't know if this counts with Ravi Shankar. I mean, it counts, but you know.
Well, yeah, like I said, I just don't think it was a huge,
Joan Baez. Did you already say that?
Who?
Joan Baez.
There you go. And, she was known as a protest singer, which was great. It's great to be saying everything you need to say. I'm just saying for raw, reach down and grab you and make you think that anything's possible. That was Janis Joplin. And, coming into the 60s, which was a complete protest era and, shooting students in Ohio State and, the whole, that was Marvin Gaye's What's Going On era. Yeah. There was, even Blood, Sweat, and Tears. They were Doobie Brothers. There was so much great stuff and so much was protest and, speaking desperate truth to power and wanting to shake off, the really constricting chains of what society was at that time and, come into this flower power, free love. It took a lot and it, women, for them to scream it out, most of them, had flowers in their hair and were doing their thing. But Janis was just, I will not be denied. And maybe it means so much to me personally because I entered a completely male field.
Thank you. Yeah, I was about to ask.
It's what's interesting. And it's the same thing I believe that happened to Janis. The other practitioners of the field, the men comedians, the male musicians, they loved us. The male comics loved me. The audience loved me. It was the people in power that didn't. The day I stepped on stage and did my first thing as a comedian, the audience was like, wow, I never had trouble with the audience. Ever. It was the old men in power who don't want the changing of the guard. They have their views of women and they want that to stay that way so they can have their trophy wives and their hookers on the side or their mistresses or whatever. And then here are these young, attractive women saying, I don't only have these, but I can think, and they go, what? The blood's going in too many directions. So I'm sure Janis, from, I'm 14 years old. I want to, wash her car for her. And I'm, the audience was just, oh my God, but I'm sure the guys in power in the music business were just, what? And the audience is always ahead of the curve. It's always ahead of the business.
Yeah.
By the time things get to television or whatever, the public's known it for a year or two. And that's the way it goes. And I entered that same field that hadn't been plowed by a young woman yet. I was 20 when I started stand up. So, and how old was she? She died at 27. So she was probably around, 20 something, very young. And it takes a lot to keep going. And I think every soundtrack of her really expressed everything she went through and I went through and people after me went through and people before us went through in other fields, female doctors, female people in government. It's always a fight. And unfortunately, it just hasn't even ended.
No, it hasn't, unfortunately. Yeah.
All you can do is what you do and do it the best. And then that's what you leave behind. I left this behind. It was the best I could do. I hope it helped.
Yeah. What was Janis's first big song? Was it Piece of My Heart? Was that the one that kind of like blew her up?
That kind of, for me, I thought Piece of My Heart was it. I wonder what the single release from Cheap Thrills was. Was it combination of the two?
Let me take a look. No, it's Piece of My Heart. It's Piece of My Heart. That's released in August 68. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. What would be like your Piece of My Heart? What was your big breakthrough moment?
I'm still waiting.
This is it. The 500. I don't know if you realize it. We have 14 listeners and man, they
to live. I'm 204 years old. I'm waiting for that break.
You aged that quickly? My God, you aged like my dog. You're like,
yeah, I know. I work so closely with animals.
15 years every minute. All right.
We don't just rescue dogs, we rescue everything, cats and bunnies and sea life and wildlife. And we support rescues in Kenya for elephants and rhinos and chimps in Cameroon. It's just animals everywhere, every kind really need protection from us.
Yeah, so, they really do. It's sad.
Anyway, so my breakthrough thing, I guess I guess I'd have to say the first stand-up special, Party of One, because for 2 years I couldn't get a special, and all the guys were on their second specials already at Showtime and HBO, and there hadn't been a woman who had a comedy stand-up special. Lily Tomlin had an hour, but she's not a stand-up. She's a gift from God in her own category.
Yeah.
So it wasn't stand-up and I'm thinking this, you know, she does character. She wasn't a threat to the powers that be. So no woman had had a stand-up special. And I would go meet up with them constantly and say, look, I've been doing this for 12 years. The jokes can't get any better. Each one is just a jewel on a piece of black velvet in a store here. You know, let me do this. I sell out everywhere. And no one wants to see a woman do an hour. That's what they would say. And I would say, I do 2.5 hours in my show, no opener, 2.5 hours. And here's my reviews in all these little cities. And they go, this is the longest and best show we've ever had. You know, stop it. You don't have to like me. You'll make money. I mean, it's just good business. You don't have to like me. No. So I couldn't take it anymore. And that was going to be it for me, because I was just repeating the same circuit of clubs year after year after year. No upward movement, no money, no, you know, it's like, what am I going to go back to Dallas, Texas? And, you know, it's like, again, you know what, there's no growth. It's embarrassing. You can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I met a guy and he was a great filmmaker. And he said, how much money do you have? I said, 25 cents. And he said, we'll do a special. And we did. New York. He knew everyone in New York, and he had just finished a couple of movies. And he said to them, do you want to get a very little bit of money to do the special, or do you want your full fee when it's sold? And everyone in New York said, Elayne Boosler, it'll sell. We'll take our fee. You know, we'll wait. And of course, I always said to him, it's personal. They don't like me. And he said, you're crazy. And after we did it, he said, you have to get stars on here because they're not buying you. Let's get stars and do an opening piece. And really, that hadn't been done yet. So I got Bill Cosby, pardon the expression, was the first week his show went to #1. He was on the cover of Time magazine. He said yes. David Letterman had just become #1, you know, in his slot. He had done nothing outside of his show. He said yes. Dr. Ruth Westheimer was huge at that moment. I got like the best people. And my good friend Tom Waits gave me his music, New Coat of Paint. I mean, you couldn't have a better opening. And the show was fantastic, right?
Yeah.
We did it, you know. They said, no, we're not interested. And I said, how can you turn this down? It's like the best show ever. And HBO said, well, you know, we have something called the Cinemax Comedy Experiment. We'll buy it from you and we'll cut it down to a half an hour and call it an experiment. I said, I think you can go fuck yourself.
Good.
And didn't sell it, and you know, was flat broke. And my boyfriend said, well, you're right, it was personal. I'm sorry, I was wrong. What do you want to do now? And I said, I want to pay everybody. I'm going to go back on the road for 1 more year, pay everybody who did this for us, and then I'm done. I'm out of here. Let's get the hell out of here. He said, yeah, I'll teach film in San Francisco or something. So that was the plan. And there's a great saying, you know, that's been around forever, and it's, if someone in TV doesn't like you, wait 5 minutes. Because they turn over constantly. They're not artists. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, they're just cogs, but we're the artists. So a few months went by and I was working, saving up the money to pay everyone. And my boyfriend called and he said, hey, I just had lunch with so-and-so. There's new guys up at Showtime. I'm going to take the show up there. Well, newer, young, hip guys came up to Showtime and they went, oh my God, and immediately gave me a deal for 3 more shows.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
For the highest money that Showtime had ever paid. And that was the break. But I had to do it myself, which is fine.
Always.
I don't mind. But it
Always.
was really a kick in the teeth. And of course, HBO, who had turned me down for years and said, we'll call you an experiment after 12 years on the road. So the show airs and the New York Times writes this amazing review that it's just what I would have written. And it was so simple. It said, where has this been? A woman who's simply a human being standing on the stage, not flaying herself for our amusement. In other words, I'm not the one who's dying up there to make you laugh at me, you know, being, you know, I'm talking. And one of my great jokes was, I'm just a human being trapped in a woman's body. So they pretty much said that in the review, like, this is so refreshing. And revolutionary in its simplicity. And of course, a month later, HBO introduced Women of the Night, 4 female comics every Friday night, splitting an hour. That's how many female comics there were, so many, but they still had to name it after hooking, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we can't quite let you in, so it was.
I mean, that's incredible. That is, you have to bet in yourself. You have to bet on yourself.
You
That's
do. You have to be, you know what? No one's going to give you anything. And that's fine. Just find a way to do it. You know, I really believe in the never complain, never explain thing. You can sit here and cry, oh, it's so hard. No, it's not. You're not digging ditches. You're not standing at General Motors for 15 hours a day, putting a lug nut on a wheel and wishing for death. You know, no one told you show business was going to be easy. And you know, it is easy in the sense of what people have to do to feed their families. You chose this. It's going to slap you in the face, and that's your price. You know, that's it. You don't get to complain, oh, they don't like women. Too bad. You know, be so good that they can't deny you. Be so good. You know, they waited for Jackie Robinson. They waited for the guy that they couldn't say no to. They waited for the guy who was the Black Ted Williams. They waited for the guy that you couldn't say, well, you know, he's no good. Oh, really? Yeah. Do you know his stats? Yeah, he's good. And at this point, you have to take him because he's the best. And that's what you have to be. And you don't get to complain. You know, people who make their breakthroughs like Jackie Robinson, like people who get to do that, they just keep going. You just keep going forward. Complaining is the worst thing you can do. You know, nobody likes a whiner. And of course, it's going to be, you know, as hard as it's going to be. So what? You know, do your thing. I think if Janis hadn't had that success, if she had sung like that and been trashed down to nothing, I don't know how we would have moved forward. The fact that I could look around me and see people looking at her. Do you remember that wonderful cutaway in the Monterey Jazz Festival movie when Janis was singing and they cut away to Mama Cass Elliot, and it was just
pull it up, Jeremiah, because I want to see that. Like,
it was just a silent Mama Cass going.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's the thing about you're talking about you. It's like watching you in your prime, just like, especially having done it for 12 years and you get to do your hour. I mean, you're at 12 years is like when we all, I think it's like, dude, I don't think I really even started really finding my voice until around year 10. And so now you're like dialed in, and then you go up there and you record and you're like, I mean, this is you at the top of your game. That's Janis at like, because I wish we had in front of us, like I had her biography of like how much struggles that she went through. Because I couldn't imagine, you know, you have a voice like that and you can sing like that. You haven't had a perfect life.
Yeah. And, you know, there were so many surprises along the way. Like, I think I mentioned Dick Cavett before. You wouldn't think she would be the guest on Dick Cavett. You know, he has this erudite kind of, I mean, when I was on the show once, he decided he was going to do the show in Japanese. So he has cue cards in Japanese and he's showing off that he speaks. There she is. Yeah, there it is.
Dude, Mama Cass rules.
Say wow? Doesn't she say wow? I can't remember that.
I have just the loop of her saying wow on a different file if you want to see it. But she's blown away. Yeah.
Well, here, can we get some sound real quick? I want to hear what I want to hear what she's singing.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's like.
Is that the scream at the end that liberated a country?
Are you hearing it or no?
No, I don't hear it.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
Come on, Jer. Adam would have it immediately.
He totally would.
Sound immediately.
Oh, wait, is this the wow? Hold on. There's the wow.
What a memory. You know how many bottles of wine ago that was for me? And I still remember it. I mean, 4 bottles of wine ago, but.
Have you ever had that moment like Mama Cass? Is there any performer you've ever seen either in comedy or music that you just had like you were just blown away?
Oh God, yeah, of course. Always Andy Kaufman and always Lily Tomlin. Always, you know, and I'm the best audience you could have. I just so appreciate the effort, you know. I'm a good laugher. I just love anyone who bothers to find out what he or she or they think. whatever you're thinking, if you're going to express that and it's original, I'm yours. I don't care if it's a different kind of pie in the face. I just like people who are finding what they're good at, what's inside of them. I don't judge at all. I'm probably the easiest laugh in the whole world, even though I love writing smart stuff. But yeah, Lily Tomlin. And again, it's fascinating as words versus music, which is kind of what your podcast is about in some ways. I went to see Lily Tomlin on Broadway, and she had done, it was Searching for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe. One of the best shows ever written and one of the best shows ever performed. It was so beyond. I don't know how many applause stops that show had, but like a zillion. And then a forever standing ovation at the end. And no one could have done more as a spoken word performer. No one could have gotten more out of an audience than that night. And then I ran down to the Bottom Line in New York because they had Dolly Parton, which was a first for them. And I run in and she's just starting and she sings one song and the roof comes off. And it left the Broadway show like in silence. It was so big. And I went, oh, no matter how great you are as a talker, when that music reaches down into people's loins, it's tribal. It's visceral. Nothing would have sounded like that after Lily, and Lily couldn't have done any better. And you realize you're up against the music. It's always going to reach down and grab people. People come up to me all the time, in the supermarket, and my mother and I still do that bit, and they remember jokes from 40 years ago, which is the nicest part of my life right now, like, oh, we still say, oh, there's one more minute, whatever. Which is so great. It's like light my fire, they remember that stuff, but nothing is like when that song comes on that you've, first made out to, and, it makes you cry or laugh, or nothing is as strong as music. It just,
I couldn't agree with you more. I was thinking as you were saying that, I was like, God, even like the Lenny Bruces, the George Carlins,
Pryor,
the Lily Pryor. I mean, there's like, yes, are there murals and they're like, are they legends? Of course. But like,
with your physical being,
but and I say Jim Morrison earlier, I'll just bring it up because I'm from living in LA. There are so many murals of just like Jim Morrison all around Los Angeles in different cities, because whatever he did, like you said, touched people so deeply. And it's like, comics will never, we'll never be able to match that.
No, you can't. The spoken word's never going to match that. Laurence Olivier's never going to be Jim Morrison, as good as he was. It's a different thing. Jim and Janis, to me, were like completely on a par. He was the male version of her. He was totally unbridled. He was totally visceral. It came right up from the groin and grabbed you. I just see them, as the perfect pair of everything that was blossoming at that moment in history. And as I said, my husband, has been in rock and roll forever, and he managed the Doors. So we go to see Janis's movie a couple of years ago. We went to a screening of the movie where her sister Laura reads her letters, and there's a lot of footage, and it's a nice film. And then Bill, he's so matter of fact. He said, oh man, I remember when Janis broke a bottle of wild turkey over Jim's head at a party in, I think it was Bel Air Canyon. I said, I've been with you for 20 years. This is the first I'm hearing about this. He goes, oh, I forgot. It's like,
how do you forget that?
A million of these stories. And he just, once in a while he'll think of something, but I'd like to know more.
Yeah. I mean, that's like a first date story. That's something. I was at this party, Jim Morrison.
I know. It just shows how confident he is that none of that stuff comes up. I mean, I have to like pull things out. What happened when, like the Miami thing, he didn't expose himself. Bill, swears that Jim Morrison did not expose himself.
He was framed, right?
Yeah. And Bill's there watching, we have the arrests. It's ridiculous. Bill was there for all of it. He was the manager. So, you get the truth from him. But I really think that, and he just sees Jim as this sweet boy. You know, that's what he saw. He really was a poet. You know, we have his books of poetry. We have his notebooks that he wrote in. He was this sweet, but then this need came up, this need to throw off the shackles of what the 50s were in America and what the Vietnam War was doing to all these young people in both countries.
Yeah.
And, you know, and old people in Vietnam. I mean,
Sure.
a change was needed, and you're not going to get it by, you know, being polite and soft-spoken and making pretty notes come out. You need to scream your guts out, you know, in a way that people will listen. I mean, you know, what's the joke in comedy? You know, be funny. If you want to send a message, you know, use Western Union, which of course nobody knows what that is anymore, but, you know, use email. But the truth is you can get a message out. You just have to be funny first. It's always funny first. And my favorite jokes are when people are driving home and they go, oh, wait a minute. That Trojan horse, she snuck in here and I get it. You know,
Yeah.
Well, that's music is. They're not going to listen to someone sing about, you know, I'm a woman and I want respect. If someone's just going to talk, you know, if I stand on a stage, you should respect me. I won't. But if Janis is singing, you know, take another piece of my heart, you're not going to get it. You know, if she's singing that and they're tapping their feet and then they go home and go, wait a minute, she wasn't saying I could abuse her. She was saying she's going to kill me. You know, you have to put it in the best.
You got to finesse. Yeah, you got to finesse it in your way. And
that's what I always felt I was, you know, lipstick and dressing up pretty. And, you know, I didn't scare anybody. And, you know, it's like, wow, I wanted to be the first young dressed up for a date, sexually attractive young woman.
Yeah.
And people respond to that. And then I go, but you know, I could kill you when you're sleeping.
I love that. God, this is so much fun. All right, here let's find out because we keep talking about Janis. I want to give a shout out to the other members of Big Brother and the Holding Company. So just so everybody knows, if you don't know, because a lot of people probably didn't know that she was in this separate band prior to just her going solo. So Big Brother and the Holding Company was formed in '65 in San Francisco. It's founded by guitarists, I may fuck all these names up, Peter Albin and Sam Andrew. And Sam Andrew I had, Albin I was worried about. The group later grew to include other guitarists, James Gurley, drummer Dave Getz, and their soulful lead singer, of course, Janis Joplin. They moved to the Bay Area. And they get into the San Francisco scene where there's they cut their teeth with like Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane. The band's first album was made because they needed money after a residency at a Chicago club. The band discovered that they had no money to get home. We've all been there. They quickly signed a deal with Chicago-based label that focused on their low-key acoustic material rather than their bread and butter. The band later appeared at the Monterey Pop Music Festival, which is that was the clip that we were watching in '67. Perfect. Oh yeah, dude, I feel like the Monterey Pop Festival blew up so many people. Like Otis Redding had that performance there. God, the festivals suck now, man. Like,
well, you don't have that. We don't get to see, you know, people really being made in one night or
Nobody's getting made at Coachella.
No.
You know what I mean? Nobody's even watching the bands at Coachella. They're in the VIP lounge taking Instagram photos. By the way, if anybody wants to book me for Coachella, I'm available in April. So,
you know what else I found in common with Janis is I'm a major comics freak. I mean, you know, comics for cartoons in the newspaper, and I mean, major comics freak. Half of my friends are cartoonists.
Really? Please tell me you know Gary Larson.
I don't know.
All right, podcast over.
If I could meet one cartoonist that I don't know yet, it would be Gary.
Gary, he's the man.
I can tell you all my Far Side favorites forever and ever. And of course, the one that became part of the American lexicon was the Blah Blah Ginger. Do you know that one?
I don't, but I feel like I've heard it.
It's so much a part of the lexicon that they did it in Gilmore Girls and they didn't even explain it. You know, the mother just went, yeah, blah, blah, ginger. And I went, oh my God, everybody knows it. You know, it's so great. But here's the link with Janis. She loved underground comics, as do I. And R. Crumb did the cover art.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Yeah. So
it was supposed to be on the back and she loved it so much. She made it the front cover of the album.
Yeah, R. Crumb did it. I mean, it's so, and I think it's kind of what this record is. It's because when I know about R. Crumb, which isn't a lot, excuse me, but
another great personality,
Yeah, but it's like these were like underground comics. They pushed the limit, and it's kind of like this record too. Even the way it was like recorded, hearing everything that you hear, the noises, the fact that they're putting out a live record for their second album to really showcase what they're about. I mean,
it wasn't live though. One of the albums they actually mixed in crowd sound, and it was a studio album, which everyone thought was live. Was that?
Hold on, let me hear. I have a little doodad about Cheap Thrills. So let's read this. Hold on. So this is the second album, released August 68, 1 year after the release of their self-titled debut. This was their last album with Janis as their lead singer before beginning her solo career. Yeah, when she leaves the band, I mean, it's over. Like, you can't replace
Diana Ross, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. It's like she's the band. She's why we're here. Initially the album was to be called Sex, Dope, and Cheap Thrills.
Right. And of course the men in power said no.
Yep. Columbia. Right. Bunch of losers. The album producer John Simon incorporated crowd recordings to give the impression, oh, okay, I was wrong. So you were right. Exactly what you said. John Simon incorporated crowd recordings to give the impression that this was a live album, but the only track actually recorded from a concept was the album closer, Ball and Chain.
Ball and Chain, right. Ball and Chain was the song done live, and the rest was mixed in, which, what a great job of mixing, because
I thought it was a live record. I feel
I know, awesome, right?
This is why I'm doing the podcast, so I can find out this stuff.
We all get to learn stuff.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool. Now I like it even more.
I know, it was great.
That's so great. Yeah, there's the album cover. Jeremiah just pulled that up. So Ball and Chain was recorded at the Winterland Ballroom, despite the album saying the live material was recorded at Billy Graham's Fillmore Auditorium. Initially, the band recorded 2 concerts in Detroit for this album that Simon and manager Albert Grossman weren't satisfied. The live album idea was scrapped. It was difficult for the band to adapt their raw sound and work habits with the realities of a professional studio, and progress had gotten to the point where the band questioned if they had the right producer because he came from a different musical style.
Wow.
Understand the band's psychedelic guitar-based sound. Nonetheless, the album was completed. It reached #1 on the charts for 8 non-consecutive weeks in 68. This went on to be one of the most successful albums of the year and has gone platinum twice in the United States. And there was it says there's 8 songs on this, but there's only, even though the album was released with only 7 songs. Oh, the other 8 songs, which were not included, were released on subsequent albums. Mm-hmm. And something that I find to be very cool about this, the album was deemed culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress and Congress, and thus it was preserved into the National Registry of Recording in 2012. And the album was named 163rd best album in the 60s by Pitchfork. There you go.
Well, there you go. She certainly, for the shortest life in the world. I don't know why they all died at 27, Jim and Kurt Cobain and Janis. I guess Hendrix, right? He was 27 as well. Bill was taking the Doors somewhere, I guess to England. And, and one of the producers said, if you've got anything on, you give it to me now, because you're not going to get through. And Hendrix comes up to Bill and goes, you got any stuff? And Bill goes, Jimmy, there's customs. We're going through customs in 1 minute. And then he was dead a week or 2 later.
Oh my God. I don't know what it is. You know what I think it is. And being that so many artists, and Jeremiah, while I'm saying this, pull up the 27 list. I want to find out everybody that passed away at 27. A lot of greats. I think it's, imagine this, just Elayne, imagine, if you remember, it's I remember how I felt when in my early 20s, where you feel almost invincible. That was my party time. That was when I went out and I was going to nightclubs, and you're finally meeting girls, and sex is involved. And you really don't have a credit card yet. And you're not a part of the system. You have you know what I mean? It's you never think you're going to die. Because the years still are taking time. It's not like they're flying by as we get older. It's a year feels like a year. And so imagine making it around that age, 22, 23, 24. And now you have the world at your fingertips, everything you want, and you're famous. I mean, I could only imagine they party because they just feel like it's a part of of like, oh, I'll never die. Like they just
I don't even think they know the finale. I don't think you know what death is at that point. You know, I mean, like, I don't think you really know the vulnerability of life at that point, because you probably had so many near misses anyway. And it seems like such a foreign concept, death.
Yeah.
As you get older, you start to see a lot more people die that you know and love, and it's closer, and you feel the vulnerability. I think when you're 27 years old on top of the world, I think what you just said is completely correct.
Yeah.
That you just feel invulnerable. I mean, Janis, choked in her sleep. So I don't even think she was just, in other words, it's not someone who just took an extra shot and then died because they didn't think it was going to affect them.
Yeah.
She choked in her sleep. So, but
I mean, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If Janis Joplin doesn't die at 27, are there the murals? Are we still talking about her? Like we kind of went into a discussion
about talking about
well,
her.
no, I know. But I'm saying if she doesn't die, let's say she continues making records, she takes different career paths as certain people do, where it's like, they're hot when they're younger. It's a couple of albums or missteps. They might change genres a little bit. Do you think that we still worship her as this rock and roll idol?
I
if she
really
doesn't die at 27.
Because as the world changes with you, because you are changing it, there's more opportunity. There's a deeper exploration of what you have to offer and what you can turn out. And I mean, that talent was undeniable. So, I really do. I mean, look at the women who have lasted that started out then. I mean, Stevie Nicks and, Joan Baez forever, and Joni Mitchell until, she lost her voice a few years ago. These people are true artists and they continue. And I wish there was more of her. I mean, like, no one doesn't know Kurt Cobain, no one doesn't know Smells Like Teen Spirit. I wish there were more people, kind of educating the next generation to people like Janis and Joni Mitchell and people like that. But I certainly don't think she was going away. I mean, she was that, that was the personification of that music. She's not going anywhere. It's always romantic to, stay good looking because you're dead, at 27. But, people, I mean, look at Judy Garland even. I mean, people who have that kind of a gift, I just think they have no choice but to keep creating, as they get older. I don't see a choice there. I think, I haven't performed in a couple of years, but the last performance I did right before COVID, I think it was one of the best shows I ever did. I think when you said you finally started to figure it out 10 years in, I figured it out 45 years in.
Wow.
Something happened to me a few years ago and I went, oh,
wow.
I swear to you. So if you're enjoying it, stay with it, because this amazing gift happens to you many years down the line. And I just stood there and I went, it's like, the Wizard of Oz, when they reach Oz and it goes into Technicolor. That's kind of what happened. I just went, this is it. This is it. You can't bomb. You're floating on top of it. It's like out of body almost. And everything, Andy Kaufman, I mean, we go way back and, he was like the reason I do this. And, he was the love of my life until I met Bill. And anyway, we just had everything forever, many years. But he used to go meditate twice a year in Switzerland with Maharishi. And he's the one who turned me on to TM, Transcendental Meditation and all that. And he said, I asked Maharishi the secret of comedy. And he said, I'm not going to tell it to you because you're not ready. And so he waited a few years and then he thought I was ready and he told it to me. And I wasn't ready because I didn't get it until a few years ago. But Maharishi said, the secret of comedy is listening to your own silences. And I thought, well, all right. Anyway, a few years ago, I just got the stillness in the center of what you do on stage. I mean, you could be throwing pies and running around and yelling and fighting with a heckler and having fun. There's a stillness in the center of it that you can hear while you're doing this. And that's the secret. But there's no way to get there until you just get there. And I started to enjoy it so much because it became something other. It was so different for me at that point that I just couldn't get enough. I mean, I started to work endlessly because I loved it so much. And you can't bomb, you can't lose it. It's just everything, in that space. And it's just great. There's just a beauty to it that really was a reward that I thought was amazing.
Yeah.
I think Janis would have had that if she didn't die. She probably had it already.
I think so. I mean, even, the partying is just, that's the scene, on stage, it's the Miles Davis thing. Exactly what you said. It's not the notes that you're playing. It's the notes that you don't play. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah. It's very, very similar to that. And when you watch someone like Janis Joplin and Jim Morrison, as we talked about, and Jimi Hendrix, and,
I loved Richie Havens. I mean, he was phenomenal.
But when they're on stage,
his softer, even though he was softer, I mean, you can't write like that. What's going on is the anthem for a generation. There's too many of us dying, too many mothers crying. I mean, nothing's changed. When you listen to what's going on, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, you go, this is Black Lives Matter. This is nothing changed.
Yeah.
And I had jokes that I wrote about Nixon in the 70s.
You can apply today.
No, I just would change the names for each new generation.
Yeah.
Change it to Reagan, change it to Bush, and that's the sad thing. And my gun jokes, I was still doing them for 48 years. And my abortion jokes for 48 years, because you realize it doesn't change. It doesn't change. All you can do is do your part. You're not going to change the government, and it's only getting scarier, everything that's going on. But you just decide that you want to put out goodness and, be the best person you can. I mean, it really does start with you. If you just do the best you can for everyone around you in the world, it just comes from individuals. It's never going to come from up top.
No. The world can get crazier, but you just have to stay present and just stay like I said, in the moment. That's when because that's the only way that you don't freak out. When you start thinking about the future, it's too much. And if you think about the past, you're sad.
Bless you. Well, that, I mean, when they shot them, and I'm sorry, it's so easy.
It's tight.
I just feel like we're hanging out, sorry. Bless you. It needs toilet paper in that. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I need four cans of black olives. Yeah, I'm making a chicken Marengo later. Oh, wait, what are we doing again?
But with the shooting in Ohio, Kent State, that, in the 60s, I mean, what are you going to do? Every rock person worth their salt just, found a way to incorporate it into their art, because you're just in agony over it. And that's what promotes, this amazing art that changes things. And it does change it on a small level. You spread awareness on your level, because you can't reach up there. There's nothing there to grab hold of. They're so bankrupt and corrupt. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to do it from down here.
Yep. I need to hear this today.
Okay, let's kill ourselves.
No. It's just, I've been doing TM for years, and I moved to New York after 14 years of living in Los Angeles, and I found.
Where did you grow up?
Washington, D.C. area, so Maryland. Okay. And I moved out to LA in 2007, and then started stand up a year later, even though I knew I wanted to do it. But it was, COVID, it really brought me to a place of because I had success pre-COVID. I had a lot of success, but I was never happy, and I couldn't enjoy any of it.
Stand up? You didn't enjoy this?
Well, no, I enjoyed being on stage. It's just everything else. And that it's like being on stage is my favorite thing in the world. It's all the other stuff. I mean, hanging out with a group of comics, like at a comedy club that you're friends with, and just being able to riff
like the best orgy in the world, right?
It really is. Especially
the Carlin line on what you just said, the George Carlin line. He goes, hey, they pay us for the other 23 hours.
Yeah. No, I know. And some of the best comedy is at the table at the Comedy Cellar, just all of us riffing, and it's just the best. But what COVID did, and like you said about that moment of flying above the clouds and kind of just being able to ride and just being in the zone almost, COVID kind of brought that to me, where instead of being it was like, you know, I'm worried, oh, I'm not booking this, or this person has that, or they're getting that spot and I'm down here. It was just like, no, I'm just going to enjoy the art form now and just be, you know, and just be a comic, and all the other stuff will just come together as it comes together, because as long as I work hard and I keep being funny, like I'll get everything I want. I still have to create my own doors, but that's the way it's always been, and I'm fine with that. And you know, I'm never going to be one of those guys that's just handed stuff.
But that's
So
perfect. I mean, that approach is perfect. You can only control what's in your control. You can't.
Exactly.
Who cares who's getting what? You know, the great thing about comedy versus actors is when they need an actor for a part, that we need a guy who's 5'10" with dark brown hair and a British accent. So that's it. That's the guy who's getting the job. Comics, everybody works. You're not in competition with other comedians. It's, you know, the part that we need everybody at every height with every color hair. There's a million jobs for comedians. I never felt like I was competing with anyone. And you're not. So someone gets a show you want, so you'll get it next. You know, they need you. They just need to keep throwing those bodies on the fire.
Yeah. So, and also what I think too, which I think, you know, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but as you were getting the no's, you know, as like, cause it's like, even like when it comes to like the spots I get for the week where it's like, oh, this person got more or whatever. So, you know, it's like, I only got, you know, 6 shows this week at the Cellar, and this person has like 24, you know, I go, all right, if she wants to tuck me in later in the night, that's fine. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to go for shit that I've never done before. And I'm going to grow, and I'm going to utilize this late night spot as a real place for me to really be myself. And then when I find it there, I can then take it to that 10:30 spot at McDougal, and now it's a mixture of the stuff I was doing before, but now this new artist. And so it's just finding our opportunities, finding our moments to shine, and being happy with the art that we're putting out. I think what we do is just it's so incredibly beautiful.
Well, you know, I think that's a really lovely thing to say. I mean, to clear up the Carlin thing, what I meant was not about sitting around. I meant they go, well, you make so much money for a show. And he goes, they pay us for the other 23 hours because it's the not having relationships, not having a family, taking the night, you know, that you can't get food. You have to, you know, go on. They lost your life. He's talking about the life around the show. That's what you get paid for. And that's what you're saying. As far as, you know, using the slots, yes, of course you get crazy when people are getting 1 million time slots and you're not. And that's normal and natural, but then you have to let go of that and do exactly what you said you're doing. You know, I mean, I was just lucky enough to be around such great comics and get the greatest advice on earth. Andy always said, you know, first of all, if you don't record your show, it's a waste. And now, of course, there are phones, so it's easy. But in those days, you had your little tape recorder. And he said, it's a waste if you don't record the show. It didn't happen. You have to listen. And, you know, it's the hardest thing to listen to yourself. And then, you know, Rodney would say, he'd come off stage at the Improv in New York in the 70s, and everyone go, oh, God, you're so great. And he would say, listen, if you do good here, it means you have no act. And that's what he meant. If you're playing to the band, if you're playing for the comics in New York or LA and, you know, winking at that, you can't go out on the road in 50 states and reach people because it's a different life. It's more condensed now. You know, everyone's business has 2 businesses, their job and show business. So, you know, again, it's more open. But in those, then you really had to think about who you're talking to. The other thing was, I remember I did a show down in wherever, and Gallagher, who really, you know, he's a punchline, it seems, but he was great. He had 12 Showtime specials of such good writing. Yeah, I don't know why props got a bad rep, but his writing was fantastic. And we both went on that night down somewhere. We got paid a little money, and I came off, and he said, did you do anything new tonight? And I said, no, I did my act. He said, for $50? I said, well, we're getting paid. He goes, if you don't put in one new joke, you have wasted your act. You have wasted your time. There is nothing here for you. Oh, great. So 50 people saw you have a great show and they're going to go home. What did you get out of tonight? You have not taken one step closer to where you want to be. You have to put in a new joke, at least one thing new every night. And then I was reading Woody Allen, and he said, you know, when you try out your new jokes, you try your new jokes when you are killing on a roll in the middle of an early Saturday night show.
Yeah.
That's when those jokes go in, and then you'll know. And
Yeah.
stop traffic dead every once in a while with a joke.
Yeah, dude.
What the hell was that? You go, okay, that's not going to come back. But that's, you know,
I can't tell you how much I needed to have this podcast today.
Really?
It is, you really are it's just great. It's because this is all stuff that I know, but it's like you just need to hear it sometimes. Yeah,
and it's you know, you have to do the right thing for yourself, and that's what stuff is. Break it and try a joke a different way. I've had jokes that I loved so much I knew could even be better, and I was so afraid to lose the laugh on it that I didn't, you know, upgrade it. But you have to do it. And another thing, I mean, I'm like doing the comedy lesson here, which you already.
Oh my dude, people love this. They love this shit. Janice, we'll get to you. Okay, Janice, just chill out.
Janice is the reason I'm here and alive.
Exactly.
Janice is part of this. Janice is the only reason that I knew I could get out of there. I'm telling you, my two heroes, Janis Joplin and Laura Nero. But Janice was the reason I could get out. Laura Nero, I loved the art. I didn't know if I could, you know, she didn't get me out. Janice got me out. I went, I'm that. And we had the same hair and we're going to let it be. Now I don't, straighten it because, I kowtowed to the man.
I love the curls. The curls rule.
Those are that's the real hair. This is what costs money, straightening it. Everybody wants the opposite. But, oh darn, had that comedy thing I wanted to tell you. Just a
Laura
minute.
Nero, you said?
Well, it was right before that. One more comedy thing. Oh,
got you. Okay.
So here's the other thing I learned, which I'm sure you know, doing this for as long as you are. But when a joke doesn't work and you really believe in it, Woody says you never change a punchline. It's always the setup. It's the setup, and it is. He's right. And you know, the exercise I used to give myself to prove that it's the setup and not the punchline. I would take the newspaper or a magazine and I'd close my eyes and I'd land on a sentence. I go, okay, that sentence is your punchline, make it funny. And I would just kind of walk around all day thinking about what could I set this up as to make, and car insurance went up 10% this year. You know, how do I make that? And that's what I would do. So when I had jokes that didn't work that I loved and believed in, I had one joke that not only didn't it work for 5 years, but I never stopped trying it. And then it became one of the biggest jokes in my act and one of the most stolen jokes in history because it became such a great joke. And it was the 6 locks on the door joke. Didn't work for 5 years. And then it became like the biggest joke in the act. I just wouldn't give up on it.
Good God. I love that. Yeah. There's so many, there's this one, it's so stupid, but it's like, because I talk about music in my act for a little bit and I just talk about how white people shouldn't do reggae music. And that's like, and I go with this whole blanket thing about how I hate, you know, these reggae bands I talk about all the time here on the podcast, 311, Sublime. Jeremiah loves them. I think
do.
They're terrible. They're terrible. All the friends we grew up listening loved those bands and I just hate them. And I've been working on it, and it's like sometimes I feel like it's getting close, and then I try it that way again, and it's like but I love that because I don't want to give up on it because I've had other comics say to me, they go, once you figure this bit out, it's going to crush. Like you just have to figure out, it's definitely.
And you know, you can't fix it at home. You have to figure it out.
I know, and you got to fail, and that's the tough part. That's the tough part about this profession.
Yeah.
But you got to pick.
Sorry.
No, but I was gonna say you just got to pick the right places to fail at, though. You know what I mean? You're not like, all right, sold out crowd, like all the industry's watching. This is the night.
No, I always had a savor for it. You know, I mean, when it really, because I would stick it in the middle because then you're going to get the reading, you know, and sometimes it's still a great joke, but you just don't have the timing on it or something, or the right setup. But I would just say, I mean, literally, I have stopped a screaming crowd cold, and I would just look at them and go, well, that was unanimous. And then they'd laugh, and then we'd go back to the show.
That's what I think as you grow as a comedian is because when you first start and you say a joke and it doesn't work,
you don't have the confidence.
You don't have the confidence just to be present and identify, that it didn't work. You just keep going with your act, and then you've already lost the crowd because they're like, oh. But that's the thing is that like now it's like I don't ever really bomb anymore. And that's not saying like oh, I'm the greatest. I just have those little savers to be
Right.
like, all right, well, I love that.
It's funny. I mean, I've certainly had shows where, they just didn't rise to, falling in love with me, but I knew the show was good. And sometimes I've had shows where I just wasn't that good, but they were way too good for what I was that night.
Yeah.
I feel so much better, being good and having them not love it than being bad and having them love it. I want them to see the best, and like I said, it's not bombing anymore, because when you get to a level, I mean, I remember I love baseball, so I go to all the
Please.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
I had Candlestick. So this is a while ago, and Barry Bonds was up, and I guess he went 0 for 4 that night. I didn't say Barry Bonds bombed. I said, oh my God, I got to see Barry Bonds play live. And that's the difference when you're this accomplished. Okay, they saw me. I went 0 for 4, but they saw me. I could have gone 4 for 4. I went 0 for 4, but I took gorgeous swings, and maybe I had some assists or whatever, but they got to see Barry Bonds play. And that's the difference at this stage. They have no idea you weren't your best because you know how to do this.
Yeah. No, I always say, like, the reason I like going up late night is because I learn more from an old, not older, but like a tired audience, or like, they've been drinking or whatever. It's not like you don't always want that sweet spot where they're just setting you up to kill, because then you'll never learn.
Every great comic has said to me, you learn so much more from a bad show than you do from a good. At this point, I don't need it, but
you're like, I've had enough.
So much more. I remember the agony of the early days of what happened?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You have a great show. What'd you learn? Nothing. You had a good time, but you don't. I mean, how you go to the museum and see how many layers of paint are on those oil paintings. Mm-hmm. That's not because they liked the tree and they wanted to make it bigger. There's a dog under that tree. They fucked up.
Yeah.
You have to keep slathering that stuff on there until you get something. Yeah. Everything is, work. Everything is rework. There's just I don't think anyone great ever just painted a painting and said, oh, my painting.
Bob Ross.
Yeah.
Bob Ross. Yeah, I think Bob Ross nailed it the first time.
Right.
There was a goddamn 30-year TV show about it.
Nice. But,
R.I.P. Bob Ross. We love you here. We love you wherever you are. They put that documentary out with him being like it was kind of like a not negative, but a little darker side of him. And I started it, and then I was like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, I know. The guy who does Family Circus is like a junkie.
Is he really?
No.
Oh.
That worked.
You got me. All right, here. I have to go to Stress Factory in like an hour, so I have to go shower.
Go.
Walk my. Well, hold on. We gotta finish this. Elayne, man, I can't thank you enough.
So fun.
Thank you. I love that someone loves Janis, and she was part of the whole conversation because I would not be here if she hadn't been there.
No, I get that, man. I get like the idea of what that must have been like, and it's like, dude, who knows if Janis never exists, you might still be in Brooklyn living under the Taliban and not have graced the stage so many times and done so many incredible things, or I'd still have you on the podcast. I'd be like, we got to get that Taliban girl on the
I would
podcast.
have
She
just an honor killing.
Yeah, she'd be like, we got to get her out of that Taliban house. Let's, for an hour to do the podcast. All right, I ask everybody these questions. So I'm not changing them for everybody.
Okay.
I'm always gonna ask them.
Okay.
So first question: favorite song on the record?
I'd have to say "Piece of My Heart."
Yeah.
I mean, the scream at the end was what got me out of Brooklyn. Just the scream.
I love it. I you know what? Being that I had heard that one before, the one that I hadn't heard, really it was Summertime, and I just love it. I also love. I just love Gershwin. Porgy and Bess. I love all that stuff. It's But
it's like you would hear someone say, "Oh, she did Summertime." You go, "Oh, we need another recording of Summertime." Great.
I know, but that's
and go, "Oh my God, that's the best Summertime I have ever heard in my life."
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why it's perfect.
Be the one. She's, she's not that light lyrical operetta, and she took it and made it so you could sweat to that song in the snow. That's how good Summertime is.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Least favorite song on this record, or I always like to paraphrase because sometimes you get like an album like this where everything's pretty dope. What song do you skip over?
I don't skip over anything.
Nothing? There's nothing.
No. No.
Okay. I kind of started skipping over Oh Sweet Mary a little bit just to get to Ball and Chain. Yeah. It's not bad. Like I was saying, it's not bad, but sometimes there's songs that you're just like, I love this. I love this. I love this. All right, this one's good, but I want to get to this one. All right. Now this question, Elayne, I ask everybody.
Start Ball and Chain in the middle, just because you wait for the build.
So
You go to the middle of Ball and Chain when it starts to, pick up, but I don't skip any.
Okay. All right. Now I ask everybody this question, and I'm going to ask you the way I ask everybody. What song on this record would you fuck to?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Ball and Chain.
Fuck yeah. All right. There we go. There you go. Ball and Chain. It's a good one, too.
That checks out.
Yeah.
But a blowjob, that's a different song.
Blowjob. Piece of my heart, so you can get that scream right at the end if you time it perfectly.
That one. And then the scream. If you can time it to that, you got chops.
Dude, you rule, Elayne. I love you. And last question, why do kids of this new generation, why should they listen to this record? And does it deserve to be on the 500 greatest albums list of all time?
Of course it deserves it, because it's such, the music is great. The artist is great. I think people should listen to it to understand the reality of where women came from to even get as much freedom as they have now, to even have as much success as they have now, to see the difference between someone singing ditties about their boyfriends and a woman with, the deepest soul in the world, to see how much you can grow and become as a human being, as a female human being. You have to listen to this woman to know how deep you can go, how high you can go, how far you can go. And I don't think there's any other singer with that blueprint for women.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. So after listening to this record, and especially after finding out that this wasn't recorded live.
Isn't that funny?
I love that. I'm going to give this 4.2 fleeces out of 5. What do you give it?
Well, what are the fleeces?
That's just a thing. I don't know. It's like it's just I'll tell this story. I inherited money when I was 18 years old, and I never had money, so I blew it very, very quickly.
Wow.
I gave $20,000 to my parents, and then I had about $20,000 left. And then one day I went to the mall and I bought $2,000 worth of fleeces.
For to wear or to
wear? To wear. Yeah, I was always cold, and they were very popular at the time.
Did you ski?
No, I would go to nightclubs and raves. They were very, very
fleeces.
They were popular at the time. That was what the kids were wearing. And the other day, I bought because I moved out to New York and I'm buying flannels now. I probably dropped like $1,200 on flannels.
You wish you had those fleeces now.
Not a one. I don't even have one of them.
What happened to them? Your mom throw them out?
Nah, they just, wear and tear. Wear and tear. Just you wear them. I don't know. And then eventually, within like a year and a half or 2 years, the fleece boom of 1998 was over.
Fleece boom.
And now nobody's wearing fleeces. Now everybody's wearing denim. And so
that's going to be my new go-to. Remember 1998, don't you?
I'll tell you right now, Elayne, you say that in the audience, there's going to be a guy like, yep.
That's it.
I remember the fleece boom.
1998. He's going to be the guy who sold you all those fleeces. He retired right after that.
It was his boom. Yeah.
He's like, this is one Jewish kid keeps coming in. Kid dropped $700 on fleeces.
The best thing about fleeces is if you get schmaltz on them, that's it.
That was why I had to get rid of them.
Recall, and it's been an hour, so I thought we'd come back to the beginning.
I love it. Elayne, this was phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak with. I can't thank you enough.
Pleasure to get up in the middle of the night. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Promote again the foundation just so everybody can get it again.
TAILS, talesofjoy.net. Check us out. And we save a lot of lives every day. 20 years we've been at it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, darling.